With all of that out of the way, let's begin my top 20 favorite movies of the last year. Kicking off my top 20 with my 20th favorite movie of 2014 is Noah. This was one of my most anticipated movies of the last year, but what was anticipation turned into disappointment. What this movie is best known for is for being incredibly controversial because the biblical story of Noah's Ark did not have Elah, Nell, and the Watchers. However, the Watchers were still awesome, despite being very hard to believe that they are angels, considering that they look like six-armed stone golems. But eventually, you watch their origin story and understand why. I mean, they really kicked ass in the flood scene, but I'll always criticize of the fact that Nick Nolte signed on as their leader 2 months before the film's release, even if it was just voice acting. The acting is also really good, and the flood scene kept me at the edge of my seat. However, there are a lot of flaws. God is constantly referred to as the creator, and the disturbing scenes were actually a little more disturbing than I imagined because they were so realistic, like that one moment where humans were cannibalizing on young women and God's innocent creatures. That scene with the sheep was brutal. But the one thing that left me really embarrassed was that Noah's youngest child, named Japheth, is actually a boy. That left me confused and embarrassed because when you watch the trailers and commercials, he looks and sounds like he is a girl, though I leave no offense to newcomer actor Leo McHugh-Garl. To all of the other young men who had a crush on Emma Watson like me, the story gets worse. During the new year of 2014, she gets a new boyfriend, and now in this movie, her character Elah has an incestuous relationship with her stepbrother Shem, and she becomes pregnant during their time on the Ark with twin daughters. While no guy like me who wants no kids in the future wants to see a pregnant Emma Watson, that announcement left Noah mentally unstable. Why? He almost killed them! Adam and Eve look nothing but gold-colored people, and the movie ends way after the flood. I expected the movie to end with a flood happening for a while, reaching land, and then living peacefully. I never imagined that Noah and his family would be full in the Ark for like over 9 months, followed by a really slow ending on land. And guess what? Paramount must have forgot to put up their disclaimer from its marketing at the beginning of the movie, like what DreamWorks Animation did for Prince of Egypt. Though I give my praise to Logan Lerman's character Ham, who eventually left the family after Noah left Ham's love interest Nell to die, I would obviously do the same thing. But where does his story end? I would have really loved to see Ham enjoy his new life without his family and with a beautiful woman. So, my request to Paramount, please make a sequel focused on Ham. I mean, the movie is critically and financially successful, and there's the Curse of Ham story that takes place after the Noah's Ark story in the Bible. So why not? Anyway, despite all those epic flaws and some moments that made me yawn, the flood scene rocked, and some of the fast-paced sequences just fried my eyeballs. Noah may not be for everybody, but it's still worth a watch. And yes, I am a Catholic Christian, and here's the good news. Emma recently broke up with her boyfriend that I just talked about, so maybe there's hope for me. Moving on to a more colorful and animated adventure from last spring, and taking the number 19 spot is Rio 2. The first Rio movie was okay, but it wasn't the greatest Blue Sky Studios movie there is. However, this colorful sequel is centered on a beautiful animated jungle and is filled with funnier humor, new characters, more action, some songs that are better than the ones from the first movie, and it has a better story that can be related to the second installments of DreamWorks animation franchises Shrek and Madagascar. Though there were some dumb kitty moments, especially in some of the songs, but what's also annoying in the movie was Kristen Chenoweth's poison dart frog character, Gabby. Don't get me wrong, Kristen Chenoweth is a hot piece of ass, and her singing is good, but boy, her character can make you feel like blowing your brains out. So, this sequel pretty much follows the same Blue Sky Studios franchise route as Ice Age, whereas the follow-up improves on the previous movie regardless of what the critics say. Overall, let's just hope that they make a Rio 3 and make it a lot better than the first two movies. Leaving the 6 out of 10 range and going into the 7 out of 10 range with a movie, taking the number 18 spot known as 22 Jump Street. When it comes to the Jump Street franchise, 22 is definitely better than 21. However, there were a lot of scenes and dialogue from the marketing that were not shown in the actual film, and they are not even shown in the 22 deleted scenes of the film on Blu-ray, showing all those best parts. And as a bonus, poor Smitty loses another girlfriend who happens to be Captain Dixon's daughter, and in return, the captain tastes Schmidt in the testicles. It may seem funny, but it's really an incredibly abusive punishment. If I were Schmidt, I would have just quit. My point of this whole franchise is that Sony needs to make at least one more installment where Schmidt finds his true love, not be left out heartbroken, and have a happy ending. When it comes to Jenko, he may have hung out with a lot of girls, but who knows if he'll ever find his own perfect woman. One last flaw to mention is that Rob Riggle and Dave Franco reprise their roles, and Queen Latifah plays Captain Dixon's wife, but neither of them have any credit for their roles. Now that the flaws are set aside, here's what I liked about the movie. It has bigger jokes, most of the main supporting cast returning, spring break bikini ogling, and awesome mid-credit sequence comprising of mock sequels, along with a short and shocking after-credit scene, loads of uncredited cameos as surprising as Johnny Depp's funny turned tragic yet uncredited cameo from the first movie, and a nasty Peter Stormare as the new main antagonist. While he isn't disrespectful to women in this movie like his villainous characters from Chocolat and Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters, his role as the ghost is hilarious and should leave everyone laughing. All in all, this is one of those sequels that improves on the last movie, but I really expected more. Now, my mentions of the scenes from the film's marketing that are not shown in the actual movie, and the bikini ogling scenes, kind of makes you think about that redhead girl from the TV spots who was about to show us her tits. I mean, we all would have loved to see that, and one of the MPAA rating reasons of the movie is brief nudity. So what the hell, Sony? Anyway, now more on to the fantasy side of things. And taking the number 17 spot is Maleficent. When it comes to Disney turning their classic anime movies into dark live-action fantasies, Maleficent is surprisingly as good as Alice in Wonderland, and even better than Oz the Great and Powerful. Fans of the original Sleeping Beauty will probably be angry at this movie, because Maleficent is really the anti-hero, but actually makes you think as to who the real villain is. Hell, it'll make the great Walt Disney spin in his grave. The real villain, my friends, is King Stefan. Yeah, I know. It's crazy at first, but when you see this film, you realize one thing about Aurora's father. He is one selfish fucker. It also makes you ask yourself whether or not true love exists. Anyway, the acting is incredible, yet it's Angelina Jolie who really stands out even more than Glenn Close playing Cruella de Vil twice in both 101 and 102 Dalmatians. The visual effects in some of the 3D are also stunning, but I guess it's some of the story's confusion and lack of jump scares that are the main flaws. Overall, it's not the best fantasy movie ever made, but it's an epic big-scope adventure. Next on Disney's agenda of remaking their beloved anime classics into live-action blockbusters include both Cinderella and The Jungle Book in 2015, Tim and Johnny reuniting for Alice in Wonderland Through the Looking Glass in 2016, and in-development projects including The Beast, Cruella, Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers, and Dumbo. Moving on, here's DreamWorks Animation's second franchise spin-off movie, taking the number 16 spot, and that is Penguins of Madagascar. The Madagascar movies are fun to watch, but I prefer other DWA franchises like Shrek, Kung Fu Panda, and How to Train Your Dragon. But at least the last two installments before this spin-off came out were still better than The Croods, which is also becoming a franchise. Anyway, the Sea and Ceiling Penguins finally have their own movie, and the theme of a spy thriller. The voice cast of new characters include the incredibly professional Benedict Cumberbatch as a wolf named Classified, Peter Stormare, who instead of playing a scumbag like in most of his movies, is voicing a penguin-obsessed polar bear named Corporal, and Ken Jeong, who, while his role as the old Mexican Lady Turbo was funny, it's his role as a harp seal named Shortfuse that stands out. Plus, we have a legendary actor better known as John Malkovich as an evil octopus named Dave. Aside from the fact that I enjoy voicing the character, I still like to know how much money DreamWorks Animation had to pay that guy to play such a ridiculous character. Although my main criticism with this movie is Dave's Medusa serum turning all the kidnapped penguins into monsters, especially when I thought it was about killing them. If I had to choose the Medusa serum's effects, I would choose the latter, because I hated seeing the mutated penguins. However, this franchise spin-off is funny, and the adult jokes were still as funny as they were shown in the trailers, like my favorite line of the movie where Dave tells the hack North Wind that they met his old zoo mates, and Skipper replies, "We were never mates. There was no mating." And as a bonus, we have a hilarious asshole version of Werner Herzog making a cameo. Overall, I still can't figure out my favorite Madagascar movie as of now. Between this, Madagascar Escape to Africa, and Madagascar Free Europe's Most Wanted, but the Penguins having their own movie is definitely worth seeing for fans of all ages, and thankfully it's not like their own shitty Nickelodeon show of the same name, with "the" removed from the movie's title where it's an alternate universe. But for those who also hate the show, the bad news is that while King Julian and Mort appear in the film's mid-credit scene as good news, the problem is that King Julian is voiced by Danny Jacobs from the TV show rather than Sacha Baron Cohen from the first three movies. And for fans who are aware of the spin-off ending up a box office bomb, do not worry. We're still getting a Madagascar 4 on May 18th, 2018. And now to dump